Hey everyone, welcome back to the DIY Home Build channel. I wanted to do a short video today, a kind of a Q&A session. There's been a lot of questions that you guys have had. They're really good questions. Some of them are very unique and very astute observations by our viewers, and other ones are just a lot of common questions that people have been asking. So hopefully this Q&A video will help. As you can see, this week is polyurethane week. I've got the gloves on that I was using, so I thought I would just stop. I'm at a good stopping point, and I would take some Q&A that I got here that I want to go through with you. The first question that John asked, which is in the Lazy Susan video, why did I drill two sets of pocket holes, double sets of pocket holes right next to each other in the corners and of both the top and the bottom? And the reason I did that for this application was because I didn't know if the upper rails were going to intersect the right one butting into the left one or the left one butting into the right one. And because I didn't know that at the time, I just wanted to make sure I had double pocket holes so that if one of the pocket holes that I drilled was too close to the edge, that I wasn't going to split the wood. I would just put it in the other pocket hole that's further away. Also, I didn't want to drive a screw into the actual butt joint where the pieces are mated up, because that would, want to split them open, and I didn't want to do that. In general, though, and I drilled this out real quickly just to show you, I have done this a lot. This is a very common practice for me. I did not do this in the kitchen videos series because the way I'm building the cabinets, I put enough pocket holes very close together in those videos. But in general, a lot of cabinet makers and carpenters or woodworkers will put double pocket holes. As long as you've got the piece of wood clamped into the jig, they just drill two holes, and it's a good idea for two reasons. The first reason they'll drill two holes or double up on the holes here is that a lot of times there's a void in the plywood, and I've talked about this extensively. It's an interesting video to watch how actually plywood is put together, but they're just sheets of tree that are basically, kind of shaved off into these giant sheets as the tree spins around on kind of a giant lathe. And if you do that, you can imagine you're going to get a lot of knot holes in the tree, a lot of, missing places or anomalies in the wood, and so there's going to be voids in there. And so sometimes when we put the screw in, we hit one of those voids and the screw just keeps on spinning. And so we want to have a second hole just in case, if it does spin, we can put another one in next to it, and hopefully we don't hit the same void and we get a stronger hold that way. The second reason that you can double up on the pocket holes is oftentimes when we're trying to put a piece of plywood together or mate up a piece of wood to it, when we put in the first pocket hole, that wood is going to want to tend to walk sometimes, or it might move out of alignment. Well, once you've put the hole in there, no matter whether you reclamp it or not, it's very difficult to get the piece of wood back into alignment if there's already a hole, because as you try to put the same screw into the same hole, it's just going to want to align itself the same way you did when you put it in at first. So it's going to probably still try to walk, or it won't be quite flush the way you want it. So the second hole then is just for if I mess up the alignment on the first hole, I can back out the screw in the first hole, reclamp, realign, and put extra pressure on or whatever I need to do, and then just drill it in the second hole to get it to bite. So that's kind of why they double up on the holes, and it's done very often. You certainly can do that. If you've been working with pocket holes for any appreciable length of time in plywood, I think you know exactly what we're talking about. So the second question that Harv, actually it was a suggestion that Harv offered for building a toe kick base. I don't typically do that with kitchen cabinets, but I do it when I do other built-ins. So you're going to get to see how cabinets are put together with a toe kick base. And the reason Harv brought that up was because on the skill building video I had with respect to computing your max cabinet height, I didn't assume to put in a toe kick. I just assumed that I'm going to build one large cabinet, and this is how tall I can build it if that's the way I choose to build it. But Harv's suggestion is excellent, and in fact, you can build, a lot of toe kick bases are almost this wide. They're 4 or 5 inches wide, and you basically just build a box out of this width of plywood strips. You build 4 pieces, you know, for your 4 edges, and then you put a couple pieces in the middle for support, screw it all together, and then you lay down that base, and then you level it and screw it into the wall and or the floor to make this toe kick box. And then you can pick up your cabinet and slide it on top of the box. If you do it that way, then you don't have to worry as much about computing your maximum cabinet height, other than to say, if your ceiling is 96 inches and the toe kick is 5 inches, then you can build a cabinet that's just under 91 inches roughly, assuming no anomaly with the ceiling, and you can just pick that thing up and slide it in on top of the platform. So that's a great suggestion from Harv. Again, you're going to see that in the videos that we have coming up with the wall-to-wall built-ins that we're going to be doing, and that we're going to try to film and show you guys. So great suggestion. Jorge and a lot of others have asked about the face frame sizing that I use. I typically use 2-inch just because I like it. I like a little beefier, a little bit more robust face frame, especially when I'm using 1/2-inch overlay on my doors, which means when I order my cabinet doors, the edge of the cabinet door is going to overlay the cabinet face frame by 1/2 inch on all sides. And when I do that, that means I'm left with about 1.5 inches of face frame, and that looks really good to me. And so it's a personal preference, but I use 2 inches in the dimensions for all my face frames whenever I can. The one thing that you'll be cognizant about is if you're building 2 separate cabinets and you're going to butt them together and screw the face frames together like typical cabinet installation is, then you may have 2 2-inch face frames butting up together, so that when you put your 2 1/2-inch overlay doors on, you're going to have 3 inches of space left. That might be a wider gap than you want, so you can make your adjustments. In our kitchen cabinets, though, the way we built them was to avoid all of that, and we built 3 boxes, but we anchored them together and built 1 face frame over all of them. So that the way we built it, I didn't have to worry about having a substantially large gap between 2 cabinets that might butt together. So again, it's a personal choice. If you go to any Home Depot or Lowe's, all the stock cabinets typically have 1.25 or 1.5 face frames. It's a way for a cabinet company to save money too. They don't have the less wood they use in the product, the more money they save, and they can still charge you pretty ridiculous prices for them. Jared asked about the pocket holes in one of the cabinets, the leftmost base cabinet in the kitchen series that we did. Why did I face the pocket holes on the inside of the cabinet versus the outside where it would be back up against the wall? And for me, it was just easy to do. It was easy construction of the cabinet. If you remember that cabinet, I put a piece of plywood for the side, and then I laid a piece of 1/4-inch plywood on the table to get that 1/4-inch recess, and then I just set the back panel on there. Well, the pocket holes were already facing upward, so it's just an easy matter of then putting it together. It made it very simple to put together. I would never put pocket holes facing the inside of a cabinet that people would see. The reason I built the leftmost base cabinet that way was because I knew it was going to have 4 drawers in it. So unless you took all the drawers out and stuck your head in and looked at the back panel to see those pocket holes, you're never going to see them. And so that to me was acceptable. And there was another comment about pocket holes being visible, and some the tact was professionalism, and I'm going to address that in a separate video. But by and large, if it's going to be visible to the eye most of the time, or at any time you're like opening up these cabinets, you'd never want to see them on the inside of a cabinet. But on the drawer cabinet, I knew there were going to be drawers in there, so it wasn't a big deal. Steve asked, why do I recess the back panel of the back cabinets in 1/4 inch? The reason to do that, which I think I mentioned in the video but haven't gone back to watch, is there's a lot of anomalies with the wall, and sometimes I like to scribe my cabinet backs to the wall so that they fit without having to install a piece of trim to hide a gap. So when I'm installing them on the wall, I leave that recess so that I can trim down the cabinet up to 1/4 inch to be able to scribe so that it fits against the wall like a glove, you know, like it was built right into the wall. And that's kind of the way I typically do that. With the other reason we do it is because the fewer points that touch the wall from the cabinet's perspective, the easier it is to install. Walls are never flat, never. If you ever look sidelong down a wall and shine a light down it, you're going to see it waves because the studs aren't always straight and true either. So when they put the drywall on, the drywall kind of conforms to how the studs are installed. And so it may be wavy, and I'm exaggerating, but I've seen walls that are really out of whack. And so part of the recessing the back panel of the cabinet is so that only two edges of the cabinet are touching. If I made them flush, then that whole surface is going to be touching, and if there's a wobble in the wall or like a buckle in the wall, it's going to really affect the cabinet to a much greater degree. So that's why we did that. A great question, by the way. Natalie also asked, how come I only recess them 1/4 inch? Where's the room for the cleats? Well, the way I answered that question was I always use 3/4 inch material for the back, and that is so that I can put a screw anywhere along the back and know that it's going to be anchored solidly. A lot of cabinets are built using 1/4 inch material for the back. It's very flimsy. You don't want to really put screws through that to try to hold up your cabinet once you're stacking, 150 pounds of all these dishes in there or something. So you always want to have a 3/4 inch thick material to anchor to the wall. And so if you go to any Home Depot or Lowe's, go look at the cabinets and how they're built. And you're going to see they're built very differently than what we built them in our kitchen video series. And a lot of times with 1/4 inch backs, they're going to put a 1/2 inch piece of pine against the back so that it creates a 3/4 inch total thick cleat. And they're going to take that pine and they're going to put it a strip at the top and or a strip at the bottom, so that is what you can drill through. So that's all that's needed to anchor the cabinet, is to drill either through the cleat if you're using 1/4 inch backs, or anywhere if you're doing it the way I do it with 3/4 inch backs. You can drill anywhere. You don't have to worry about a cleat. The back of the cabinet is substantial enough to hold the weight of the cabinet and its contents against the wall. A side note, you have to hit a stud with a long enough screw to do that. You want at least 1 inch of thread material into that, preferably 1.5 inches into the stud to anchor that. And so that's why I only recess. I don't need a 2x4 cleat or anything unless there's no studs. If there's no studs in the back of the wall to anchor that cabinet, if I'm going to be putting a lot of weight in there, I'm going to be taking out that drywall and putting in structural components to be able to anchor that cabinet. I don't really prefer the use of molly bolts or some other kind of bolt. I really like to get in there and make sure it's anchored very, very solidly. So it was a good question, Natalie. Thank you. Numerous people have asked about the Bessey clamp that I use. These are a little bit pricey in terms of clamps, and they're a little bit interesting to get used to. But I think they're like 70 or 80 bucks a piece on Amazon. And so I do have a link, an affiliate link on our website at homeshopjournal.com. We get a little tiny sliver of money if you order through that, if you decide to order these clamps. And again, all of that kind of money right now just goes right back into whatever projects we need to make. So for YouTube, fans or whatever. But it by and large is the most used clamp. I take them with me on the jobs when I go to install stuff or do job site work. And it's not a one-handed clamp. You can't sit there and squeeze it and hope that the thing moves in. You have to use 2 hands, so it's a little tricky sometimes to use, where you have to put it down and clamp it. But I'm telling you, this thing, pound for pound, is one of the best clamps, in my opinion, that I've ever had. And I have a lot of clamps in the shop, so I use this all the time. It's a great, great clamp. Anyway, it's called the Bessey. Bessey makes it, B-E-S-S-E-Y. It's a Bessey Super Grip 8-inch if you want to go look it up. And then a lot of questions about where I get my lumber and my plywood. I have there's a company that has 3 locations in the Chicagoland area, and it's called Owl Hardwood. and that is where I get my pre-finished plywood. Those guys, they're really great over there. They'll cut my plywood. I can fax them a cut sheet, and they'll cut the plywood for me to the sizes that I need. Only because I've been going there for so long. They won't do that for everybody without a credit card payment or something. But you know, that's where I get all the cherry lumber that I use, whether it's dimensional, you know, finished on 4 sides, or whether it's raw lumber that I want to plane down myself. They are pretty much my go-to hardwood and now pre-finished plywood supplier. For the cabinet doors and all that, I've mentioned there's a link again on homeshopjournal.com. I have a links page which I'm starting to populate with all of the places that I get materials. So we go to a place called waltzcraft.com. It's in Wisconsin. They have that's all they do is focus on doors. And in fact, I want to shoot a video up there. So they give plant tours. So I'm trying to work out if I can actually shoot video inside the plant so I can show you how the cabinet doors are made and everything. So it's really great. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was there was a comment on the daunting task of building a Lazy Susan cabinet. A lot of cabinet making is, once you do it, is pretty straightforward. You know, I'll never say it's really simple and really easy, because there's always going to be problems but that you're going to run up against. But the one thing I'll say about daunting tasks was something that was told to me, which was a little silly, but I never forgot it, and it's, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is, one piece at a time. And so what you try to do with complex tasks is just break them up into their individual pieces. If I told you I need 6 pieces of wood cut, I need 4 of them cut this way and 2 of them cut this way, you'd probably be like, sounds good to me, just give me the dimensions and I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to say this is how it needs to be put together in this way, with these 2 pieces this way, these 2 pieces this way. You would get it. So in the video that I posted along with the Lazy Susan construction, which is the SketchUp video that I posted on how to construct the cabinet, that was an attempt to try to get you to eat that elephant. Break it down into its most basic pieces and build it up from there. If it seems complex and daunting, don't worry about it. I face a lot of stuff, you know, on a fairly regular basis that is a little daunting at times to me too, but I just have to remind myself, break it down, break it down, break it down until you understand how each thing goes together. And if you just do what I said about, you know, drawing it up, making a list, checking your measurements, cutting your pieces, learning how to assemble them and put them together, you're going to be fine. There's going to be no cabinet that you guys cannot make after you've been doing it for a while and you get that confidence. So don't worry about complexity or daunting tasks. Just break it down into its pieces. I did want to talk a little bit about what's coming up. I'm very pleasantly surprised at what kind of started out to be an experiment for us. We've got over 900 subscribers, so I very much want to thank you all for subscribing and posting and sharing. It's been great. There's so much positivity on your comments. I'm actually very touched, and you know, it's great to share information and exchange ideas, and I feel like I'm at least, you know, kind of answering some of your questions. Hopefully it helps. So we're going to be doing some freebie kind of giveaways when we hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm going to post a video. We're going to give away some cool stuff. We're going to give away some pretty significant tools. I'm thinking about giving away a couple of these Bessey Clamps for that, and we'll get to the rules and all the regulations and what you have to do to win them. But we're going to be doing these at different milestones that we reach, and the first one coming up is the 1,000 video. The 1,000 subscriber video. Once we hit that, we'll be giving away some T-shirts and things like that, just as my way of saying thanks for all the positivity and all of the involvement that you guys have an interest that you've taken in the channel. It's just been really amazing for me. And the last thing is just, you know, things that are coming up. I'm going to do a couple more skill building videos for you. I've got one coming up on how to square up a cabinet. And again, we've got the video coming up. We're going to do a whole wall-to-wall built-in series, which if you look at it, you're going to be shocked. It's going to look very complex and scary, like, oh my gosh, how would I ever do that? But again, we're going to do a SketchUp video. We're going to break it down into its pieces, and we're going to just do it one step at a time, and we're going to show you every step of the way, and it's going to be really, really fun. So again, I appreciate you watching and taking the time out of what I'm sure you guys have very busy schedules to watch these videos. I know they're a little longer than what my YouTube statistics tells me that the videos should be, but I appreciate you hanging in there and listening and subscribing and sharing. It's been really, really great. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.